Fox News has learned U.S. officials say China may be changing its position on North Korea and starting to view the country as a liability. Anthony Ruggiero is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He spent more than 13 years at the U.S. State Department. He also advised the six-party talks in 2005, which brought the U.S. and other major nations together to try to tackle North Korea's nuclear program. Once again, the news of the day, Anthony, that for those who are just tuning in, is that North Korea apparently, according to a report in the Washington Post, quoting the Defense Intelligence Agency, North Korea has developed a nuclear weapon small enough to fit on top of an ICBM. That really puts all of the world in danger. What is your view of the U.S. response?
Well, it's certainly a concerning report. I think North Korea has had a nuclear weapons program for over 20 years. So I think assuming that this, or assessing at least that this is the possibility, is a prudent way to go about it for our intelligence agencies. We have the new UN resolution, which was an achievement, but right now, if China has really changed its way and believes North Korea is a liability, the Treasury Department and the State Department could go to China with a specific list of what they need to do and give them a 30-day deadline. And if they don't do it in 30 days, the United States could use its economic power against Chinese banks, Chinese companies, Chinese individuals.
But if the North Koreans have already mated a launchable missile, a launchable warhead to a missile, that kind of puts them in the driver's seat, doesn't it? Don't they have the power to extort whatever they want from the Chinese or maybe the United States?
Well, and I agree. I think that's part of the reason why going back to negotiations at this time would only get us possibly a freeze that the North Koreans would violate at any point that they wanted to.
Because they've done that before. They agreed once before.
At least 4 times.
They agreed once before to get rid of their nuclear program in exchange for aid from the West, and they tore up the deal.
Right. North Korea has a PhD in fleecing the United States and its allies for inducements to give up its weapons programs, knowing that they're not going to do that. That's why strong, robust sanctions campaign like we had with Iran, that could be very short term. It's up to the United States how far to turn this dial. You know, Secretary Tillerson talked about a dial. You can turn it to 11 pretty quick if that's what the Trump administration decides to do.
All right, such as, what more can we do?
Sure. I think the first thing you would do is you can go after Chinese banks. You don't have to designate them. You don't have to freeze their assets, which could harm the U.S. economy, but you could issue fines, and those banks will start to ferret out the North Korea transactions. Go to the Middle East. Talk to some of our partners, as a report last week showed, that are using North Korean laborers, and that's $500 million a year that they're getting there. Go back to China and make clear that we're going to stop every vessel between the two countries. And there are a lot of things. I mean, that's only a very short list. Go to Singapore. Go to the company that's sending luxury goods to North Korea. Unfortunately, the list goes on and on and on because we've spent, unfortunately, the last 10 years really not plugging these loopholes.
But the sanctions on the North Koreans to this point have not accomplished much in the way of what we wanted. Are you saying that sanctions on China and other countries doing business with North Korea would be more effective?
Right. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, yes, sanctions have failed. They're focused on the wrong areas. We know the right areas. The UN itself has been saying that. The UN has said non-North Koreans are facilitating North Korea's sanctions evasion. Who is designated in the new resolution? Only North Koreans and North Korean companies. That's really all you need to know. And the North Korean individuals that were designated are operating in 4 of them are in Russia and 5 of them are in China. So that's really the example of what we're looking at here. And the United States has the example with the Iran sanctions, where the United States was not afraid to go after its allies in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, and use sanctions against those allies and saying, look, now it's either us or you're working with Iran. In this case, I think people will choose to work with the United States instead of North Korea.
Anthony Ruggiero, Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks for those points.
Thank you.